So here let's start up now. So we have features like create, edit, delete and all, right? So let's see how we can actually go ahead and see this. So here we have seen something like this create is an option where you can actually create a record over here, right? And whenever we click on create, right, so we have to make sure user adds a record pertaining to this object model we have, right? Now let's go ahead and create the create option here. Now we know that the link which actually got created for action link is a create. Now this is the one which is an action method. It lets back, right? And whenever we click on create, right, so the basic page what we have to get here is to give the user to add user to enable user to provide details of student, and then he can submit the details, right? So initially when we have create option, right, it is a simple HTTP get method which we have to create. Now how to create HTTP get method? Now we have already learned about get method and post method in our ASP.NET, right? So post is something where, so during the page progression, right, if you want to, if you let's say if you're clicking on a button or if you are changing on any post back control, right, then what happens? The request will be sent to the server to post the data whatever or to do some action on server on whatever click you are doing, and then it will give you a response based on the request parameters. So that's a post back. Get request is something where you're actually requesting some resource from the server, and posting is something which you're uploading something back to server, right? So here when we have a create, right, which means you are requesting to get a create page. So for that let's write public action result, we have create, this is a method, and this, let's say, returns right, and this is something which is a HTTP. So these are called as an attributes of your method, right? So there are so many attributes which we have for our methods here, right? Which we can create which we can create our attribute class now. So we'll see these attribute class now in our coming classes, right? So when I say HTTP get, right, so this is something which will get the view which you have created here. This is simple HTTP get create. Now let's create a view for this. Now let's see, this is important here. I click on this and say add view. Now this time, so we have to create a view for creating a student record, right? So let me add a strongly typed view here again. So previously we have selected a student details and selected a student model class, right? So again we have to select a student class here, which we are getting from entity class library, right? But this page doesn't need to show all the details as we were showing, right? So create option you can actually select from scaffold template. Here you can see you can select create. So what it does is it will actually take the template of this model class and whatever attributes are needed, right, it will actually create the template of create model, right? So let me just uncheck these things. We'll come up to this later and click on add. Now you can see it actually created all the main create model, create view here, and you can see that it actually added all the labels, all the text and everything, right? So let me run it and show how it actually looks, and then I will come back to this view and explain things. So it will load the student details again on whom we are doing that. Right, you have student details again here. Now when you click on this, see, so this is something which got auto-generated from MVC when you created a view, selected a model, strongly typed coupled model, and then we selected scaffold as created. Right? Now here you have roll number, student name. So whatever you can see here, right? The actual labels here. These are nothing but your labels, right? And these are nothing but your input text boxes which got created. Now here you can see. Let's go back and see how it got created. Now here you can see that first, as soon as the view created, now we know that model. Now for this create view, model is a student, right? Now student is the class which is in the entity class library, which means it is not in my current existing project. You can see existing project name is MVC data, right? But we actually added something called entity class library separately, where I'm actually maintaining my data layer, right? So if you go to definition of this, right? Now you can see we have roll number, student, and all, right? Without object, a straightforward data types, whatever we have, right? It will actually access that. Now you can see whatever the actual type is there, which is, let's say, insert variable name, right? So that name will be persisted for your name, right? Which you can see it here. Now let's see different things in here. The first step is we have seen something called HTML helper class. Right now you can see there are many controls which actually it provided. The first one is you have religion, right? So field set, field set is something which will actually give you a field set of your panel type of thing. Now this is a HTML control, right? And in a field set, if you give religion, then it will actually make your text visible. So inside that you can see there are different divs which we provided with some classes. So class is something where it is tagging something with the CSS. Now here these are the main HTML helper classes. Now you can see here that now this is a complete one part, which is, you can see we have a HTML label form, which means you are creating a label for something, which means this is a main control you have, which is a roll number, and for this you are creating a roll number. Now you can see that as a model. What is model? Model is a student. With the lambda option, it gets which variable you want to create. You have something called model.roll number, right? So in that case, what you do, you will create a label for this one. Now next step is the HTML class edit for. Edit for is something which it will create a text box. So it can be a edit for, right, or it can use also a text box, a text for. You can see here in HTML helper class you have text box, right? You have text for, right? You can use anything. Let's say you are going to use text for. You have, let's say, model, and I'm gonna use model for model.roll. Right? You can use either of them. Fine. In that way, you have your edit for. Edit for is something which uses the actual input type for your roll number. And you can see there is something called validation message for. Now this is something which is same as our, if you remember, we have something called regular expression validator, right? you guys have created a project where for text box you created a validation message. Now this is something which is now here you have a validation message for a direct internal method of your helper class, and you have to provide for which where will you have to provide. Now I'm actually providing for roll number. So whatever editor we are using, right? So this will be controlled by this validation message. Similarly, you have for others. You have for student name, label, editor. Similarly, you have for address, label, and editors. Right? Similarly, for phone number and for client data. This is something which actually got created for us. This part. Now, the next part is very important, which is our last step. Once you provide everything, we are providing a simple input type called submit. Now, when you click on this button, right, some actions will happen, right? Now, this input type submit, right, is activated when you are using something called the begin form, right? What is begin form? Now, here, every HTML, even in your ASP.NET, if you have noticed, right, you have something called a form attribute, right? So this is a form where you can actually mention your postback or whenever you submit or whenever you are actually using form, that you can actually use something called input of type, something called submit. Now what happens whenever you click on this, right, it will actually get the parameters of that form and it will take to the next page. Similarly, here you have something called begin form. Now when you say HTML or begin form and empty pages, we'll see this. We'll write this begin form right now for delete. I'll show you how to write. Now here, when you start with your begin form, which means it will actually consider that everything whatever you have here need to be passed over right now. And where to pass? Now you will see that this begin form is something which is empty, which means it will actually consider there is a post method for a same controller from where I'm getting. So we are getting this page from my create get method, right, which is HTTP get action method. Now similarly, whenever I submit this, right, it needs something called go back to create as a post. That is something which gives us. And at the last you have something called back to list. Now this back to list is something which goes back to the list. So by default it will be index. So when I click on this, so it goes to actually home index here, home index. But as we are redirecting it to student details, right, it will actually go to student details. Click on create again, it will come back. So this is your create screen you have. Right? Now let's get back and let me just open this database so that we'll see how it is mapped. Now, so we provide all the details, let's say like some student name, right, and address, phone number, and create it and everything. Right now, everything is there. But now when I click on this create, right, we know that when you click on a button, submit button, it will actually look for a post back method, right? When I click on this, see, it says the resource cannot be found. Why? We already have a home create over here, right? We already have a home, which is my home controller and create method, right? But it says it doesn't find it because now whenever I click on a button, it always looks for a post method, HTTP post method, but this is a HTTP get method. That is the reason why it says the resource not found, right? So for this reason, what we'll do, we will have to create one more method, right? One more method called create with HTTP post. Let me do that. So let's copy this action method and let me do it. So here I'm gonna make it as HTTP post. Right now this method is HTTP post. Now here can I have two same method names here? Right, I can't have it. Obviously you can't have, when I rebuild this, I can't have two methods with the same name and the same signature. You can say that we have already created. Right? For that, either you can change this name where you can, you can actually provide different parameters to actually change, or you can see different attributes as such. Right? So we have something called action name. Right? I will actually give something called here post create, but I'll actually make sure that the action name it is mapped to is. Similarly, you can also create your HTTP create also. Let's say you are gonna say get here, right? But your action name will be both are same. This is one of the attributes you have where you are mentioning your action method name will be different, but it is actually referred to the action called create, which is a HTTP get. Similarly, you have a post create, which is a action method you have, right, where you have an action name called create, which is a HTTP post method. Right, this is how we create the action methods. Now let's see whether our get create which we changed is working or not. Right, and we have to edit our, anyways we have to write some code on post, right, because we are trying to post something, right. So let's run this. So it is bringing the project. Let me run this project. So if you get the student details for you, right, we got the student details now. Now let me click on create new. You got this, right? Now you can see the action name is create, but we actually got a page. But you can see by action name we actually changed to get create, but still it is referring to create here. Right? So this is something where how we actually map. Now let's see how to create our post create. Now post create is something which will get triggered whenever you click on submit, right? So here there are different ways how you actually get the parameters here. Now when I click on this submit, right, what happens, whatever details you have provided are details of your model, right, which is student. Now when you click on submit, all these details will be submitted as a model object, which means I can take a direct student object here. Let me call it as S. So from create option, whenever I create and click on submit button, right, now this will be triggered where all the parameters whatever I entered will be submitted as a student object here. Now I can use this student object to add it to database. Now once you have your student object, how can I add? I can easily add it using my dial again. So in dial class you can see there is a get student, right? So here let me create one more method called public void add student of, let's say I want a student object. Let me call it as st. Right here I'll create a college DB context of and I will say DB context dot students dot add, right? We have already seen this part in our entity framework classes, and you have DB context dot save changes. So what it will do? It will actually add the class to my database. Now initially let's go ahead and see how many records do we have in here. So let's go to college, go to tables. So put the students tables here. Okay, we have these till 17 we have, right? So it will add the student details in here. Now let's get back here. Now let's call that method. So I have a dal. So I here. Let me call it as d is equal to right, and you can call d dot add student of this. This will actually add up here, right? Now here what is happening, as soon as you post, right, now this is something which actually doesn't have a view. Remember, we haven't created any view for this, right? Now where it will go, if we are returning some view directly, right, it will actually give us an error that view doesn't exist. So in this case what we'll do here is we'll actually redirect, right? So as soon as we create this, right, we will use a redirect to get create again. So how to redirect? I can use redirect to action user of my get create. I'll directly go to students tab, obviously. Now I want to add anything, right? I want to go to list of students so that I can see whether the list got added or not. I mean the student got added or not. Right? So this is how we can actually do the post. Where I'm using my dial, I'm actually using my actual layer to add up. Now let's run this and see where is getting added or not. So this will actually load up all my student details again, and it will give me option of now here you got it, right? So here let's click on create new. Now we have it here. Let's create roll number 18, some student name here. Let me call it as Samir. Address, let me call it as phone number here, right? And create date time is let's say. Now here you can see the validator will work here, right? Now in roll number, let me type some number, right? Immediately it will give you field roll number must be a number. It should not be a string you have to provide, right? So that's why until you provide string it won't, including phone number. Phone number is taking integer, right? As soon as you enter phone number, okay, phone number is a string, right? Okay, anything else you have? Let's say create data is something where you add anything else, it will give you error, right? Now from where it is taking what data type to be mapped, again it is taking from student class. If you go to student class, you can see roll number is integer. So until unless you take integer, it will not take. Now this is something which your validate for. Here you can see you have to provide a validate for of type, right? Now for what it will do, it will take this model. Obviously it will apply to this editor, right? But it will take all the properties of which data type to be validated from here. Student over here. Right? Similarly, you have all the strings and you have create data as system data. So it will make sure that you are actually entering some data here. Right? If you go back out of the get data, it will actually use these are tables, right? Now let me create it. Now we have added the roll number 18 students Samir. Create it. Now you can see for 18 Samir got added. Go back to database and click on execute. You can see. Right? So this is how we can actually work to create data, right? To get all the details you have, right? To get all the details where you can actually map things as it. Right? So this is your create new method which you have. Now let's get back to this and see how to edit. Right? How to edit a record, right? Using my MVC model again. Now as of now when you click on edit, we know that we don't have a resource, right? For this what we have to do, we have to create my edit option. So let's close this create here. We're done with this create. Now let's go back to the edit. Right? So where is my student details? So these are student details I have. In the student details, right, I have the edit option. Let me just select this edit. Now here you can see edit and details and delete. Anyways, details is something which you already have it here, right? Which we may not, let's say, seeing, let's say, right? But when you have to edit and delete, right? Edit is something whenever you select records, right? And if you want to edit, it needs something to actually, your controller, whenever you click on edit, right? Controller may need something to know, like, what exactly you are trying to retrieve, right? Which means when I say what exactly you are trying to retrieve, which means you may want to actually get the ID, right? Or some primary key of that column, let's say. But here, yes, I can provide some parameter, right? But it will be a roll number, because roll number is a unique number for me, right? I have a roll number. Right? If you have more, you can provide more parameters in here itself. Now, if you remember this action name, right? This is a name which you have, and this is a parameter. Sorry, this is the action name we have, which we have to create, and these are the parameters or object route values we have. That where I'm actually passing my. And this is something which you have here. Now, let's go back to edit now. So initially whenever I click on edit, what should I get? I should get a screen where I should be able to edit my student details. So let me create a HTTP GET method of edit. So let me call public action result edit. Right, where here we have a HTTP GET. So initially I have to get a form, right? And say return a view. Right? But here, when I click on edit and when I am returning a view, we know that we have to return only one student, right? So that what we'll do, we'll take an integer ID, because when I select any one of the record, I will be getting my roll number, right? So I will be getting roll number as a parameter called ID, right? So how can I actually catch this ID? Because these will be coming as a argument section. I can actually catch it here, right? Providing the parameters here. Now, let's get the students. So let me call where stu is equal to dal dot get students. Sorry, dal, you have to create an object, right? So instead of creating a separate object, you can see I can directly create an object like this. Right? New dal is nothing but an object, right? And I can use this for get students. Right? So get students will give me list of students. Now here itself, on this complete list, what I can do, I can apply my link. If you remember, I can apply my link directly. So here in my get students, what I'll do something called single, because I want the first record where, let's say, R, your lambda option, R dot roll number is equal to 9. Now this will give you one single record of a student. Sorry, W. Right? Where what I'm doing, I'm checking my roll number to be I. Right? Now why I'm using single is, let's say, even if you're getting more than one record, it will return the first record to student. Right? And I'll return my student object here, which is this will actually make my student edit view, right, ready. Now I can actually send the student of model object to my view. Now let's create a view here. We haven't created a view, right? Right click on this and add view. Now you can see again you have your edit. So here I have a strongly typed, let's use a strongly typed view again, because I'm going to create edit for my student object. And your scaffold template, let's select edit. When you select edit, it will give you details, right, as we have in create. But if you inject an object, right, it will fill all these details into that edit objects. Click on add. Now when you click on add, you can see same, you have the same object that I created, right? But what will happen whenever you have an editor for something, right? Editor for roll number, editor for model, roll number, right? And if you have, as you are injecting some data into student, right? The data will be populated in this model. Let me run and show you that. So let me get the student details, right? Now let me click on edit of anything, right? Let's say 15, click on edit. Now you can see we got a edit, you know, action, and you also got your ID. You can see. So this is something which is your main ID. Now we got it as a separate, simple, plain URL, right? Or let's say you can also make it. You can also make it as ID query string. Let's say if I make it, see, you can see it is loaded. Even if I make it as 10 students, right? Then it will get student 10 details, right? Or let's say I'm getting first student details. I'll get it first student details. Now you can map it. First student details is Sam and so on. So right, you can see everything will be the same. Right? In this way we are trying to map, let's say 15 students, I'm getting it. Right? So this is how you get a edit screen. Now again you can see you have a edit button, a save button here. Now if you have something to change, right, you can change and click on save. Now again when I click on save, again what it will check for? It will check for edit controller, but it will actually see whether you have your post method or not. That is important here. Right? Now here, let's go back to this controller here and see we don't have post method. So let's create the post method. So let me copy this. Let me call it as your HTTP. Now this time I don't have to, maybe this edit method and this method will have different parameters. Let's say even in previous case we had different parameters, but just to show you that we can actually use action name, right? Yeah, so this time let me use the same name, right? But I'll have a direct student object, right? Because it is my edit post will actually give me the same object model, whatever I'm filling over here, right? Editing may be filling. You may edit everything, let's say, right? And you're getting, right? And you're actually mapping to your post, so that I am getting everything. So in this case, what you're getting? You're getting all the student. You're getting all the student details here, right? And now you have to edit. So in my dial, what I'll do, I'll add a new method called, let's say, edit student, right? And I'm getting what student you want to edit and what all the parameters you have. I'll pass everything. And what I'll do here, so in my controller, I'll just call something called dial object dot, and see edit student dot. Yes, this will edit my student. And once I edit my student, I will return to result redirect to my action called, let's say, go to student details. Student details is something where I can see whether data got added or not. Now let's go to edit method here. So edit method here, let's write up. Now we have student here, right? So first let's get the college DB context. Right, we call it DB context here, right? And we have, so with this let's get let's say I want all the students. So let's say all students is equal to your DB context dot get students dot to list. That's right. Now here I'm getting all the students. Instead of all students, I can actually get a particular student. Let's say I can say actual student. Now how can I get? I can actually apply directly here like single where r lambda, which is a record lambda, is r dot roll number is equal to. I have my student here, right? I can directly get st dot roll number. That's it. Now I'm actually getting specific student to edit. Right? Now once you get this, now I can actually map all the remaining things. So let's say I have a student name is equal to st dot student name. Right? Similarly, whatever parameters you have, let's do that. So you have student name, you have a phone number, let's say, right? Let's go back and do the phone number. Similarly, let's say you have address, right? Now let's say you have, what else you have? Create data and everything, let's not do. Let's say only these three things can be edited, right? So once you are done with this editing, now let's say your DB context dot save changes, right? Now because your act2 is still you're actually getting from your list actually, and this is still connected to your DB context because you're actually getting from there. Now when you say save changes, it will automatically save all the details whatever you have made, right? So that's how it actually going to work in your edit. So let's run this and see how it should work. Now let me click on any one of the edit buttons. Let's say I'm clicking here, right? So 15th row, 15th roll number, right? So we have some name here, right? Let's go back and edit that here. So let's say this, let's say I'm going to do something called here. Click on save. When I click on save, you can see 15th record became here. And go back and refresh this, you can see the actual name of it. Right? So this is how we do edit option using our MVC. Right? Now with this, right, what we are actually learning is we are actually learning different paths, different HTTP get methods, post methods, getting details, redirections, right, adding different layers, everything in this. So this object model mapping model will actually give you all the concepts embedded in your one single concept here. So this is our post here. Now let's get to the next one, which is our delete option. Now this is something which is peculiar here. Now when I click on delete, right, what should happen? Let's say it should delete the record whatever I am selecting is my option here. Now which means as soon as I click on delete, which means I want the record to be deleted, which means I want to directly do a post option here, right? I want to do a post option where I can get my details here and then remove that specific object from database or record from database, right? Now let's go ahead and see how to do that. Now we know that we have to create a post method of delete, let's say, and the name of your action method will be delete. So let's say have public action result of delete. Let's say have a return view. For now I'm taking this, which is a HTTP post. Right? And while deleting, you may need some details, right? So let's get back here. Let's get back to the interface. You can see it is already providing your some primary key you can take. But now this action link may not work because when you click on any action link, right? So it will always look for get methods. But here we are interested more on post. Now how can I make this post? Right? You can use begin form now. You can use begin form at any part of your code. Now here, see how I can use begin. I can use using my HTML begin form. Right here, my form here I can directly give empty option and click. But when I do this empty option, it will go to student details controller post method, but I don't want to go there. Where should I want to go? I want to go to delete post method. Now you can see as soon as I click here, you can see there. So here you can see the helper method. You have something called action name, right? My action name is delete. So which is this delete, right? And then you can see I'm getting a controller name. Controller name is your same controller name, which is student details. Here controller name. Okay, so in student details controller, I want to go to the actual delete action method. Now here I can actually provide my third option called my parameters. That I'll give you ID is equal to your item dot roll number. Right, this is my form method I have. Right, then I'll close and open brace and so here I can start using now because I'm actually starting my begin form here. Now whenever I provide a simple, let's say I'm going to provide simple input type, let's say submit here, right, and value I'll take it as let's say delete. Now this delete has nothing to do with this action or this action name, right? It is just submit, or let me call it as submit or go something. I'm just giving some different value here. Now what happens? Now let me just remove this, which means you don't need this now, right? Because we're not doing any get action here. We're directly posting something. Now as soon as you click on the go, now this is a button we are actually checking, which means my delete thing will actually look as a button now, not as a link, let's say, right? And you're actually passing your roll number. Now as soon as you pass a roll number, your home controller will get a roll number in ID, right? So let me just make it as ID. Now once you get an ID, how to delete? Let me go to DAL here and create a separate method here, public void, let's say delete student, and I'll be getting my roll number, let's say. So which roll number you are interested. So now here you can get college DB context again, and you have DB CT is equal to DB context and get actual student first as your DB context or students dot to list, right? Dot again I'll get a single student of I lambda I dot roll number is equal to your fine. So here you will get a single student object, right? Now here what I'll do, I'll take a DB context again and I'll say students dot remove. You have already seen this, right? And I'll provide an object of student. So once you do that, let me save this. Right? So this is something which is a pure link and entity model type we are using. Okay? We are actually getting the entity model type here, where we are actually pushing the data from your controller action method called your delete here. So let me create an object, which is my new DAL object. Sorry, new DAL dot delete student of I. Right. So this simply will delete a student. Now let's run this and see how it goes. So let me go back to this. Now you can see I have these records as an outstanding records. Now let's see how there is. Here we have the data. Here you can see edit and we have go. We have created go just to differentiate between our delete value and all, right? So this value whatever we give will be actually shown here. Right? Now let me click on some delete. Let's say I'm gonna delete something called here 16, let's say. Click on go. Right? Now as soon as I click Now 16 will be deleted, obviously. Let's go back and see. We have 16th roll number here. Click on execute here. Now it will. So roll number, yeah. We have one thing to do here. Anyways, I know that we have to. There is no view for delete, right? We have to redirect it to delete. Let's quickly check that. We have to redirect to action called student details, and let me put a breakpoint here. Let me run this. It is now here, right? Now let me click on the 16 again. Click on go. Home here, right? You just missed it. The control name is not student details. It is home. Right? You have delete in your home controller, right? Not in student details controller. Okay, fine. So student details is not a controller name, it's a action name, right? So we just made a mistake that we gave some other action. But we have to do delete in home. Home is an action controller. Now let's run this. Data ready. Now let me go back down, click on go. When I click on go now it will hit. Perfect. Anyways, now let's continue this, and now we'll see the 16th record got deleted, right? So where, let me double click. Now you can go back here, 016 roll number, execute it. Now you can see it got deleted, right? Similarly, you can delete again your 14th, let's say, click on go, 14 deleted, right? So go back and check, 14 deleted. Now this is how you can actually create or delete option from your delete the actual controller action method, right? Where we are actually passing few things like parameters and post method, and we are actually using a form in here. Now this is something, if you want to actually force some action in between to actually get the data, right? You can use your begin form and get the data. So this is your complete object model mapping, where we have seen to get all the data, create new, editor, go, and anyways, you had details, right? You will actually see that part too. Don't worry about it. But here, anyways, you are actually watching that complete details. I removed it, but I'll show you how to, whenever you select any, any one single data, right? How to view everything. We'll see that. Don't worry about it, right? So this is something which is an object model and different concepts we have.